Do you enjoy road trips with your dog? Have you ever wondered what happens if your dog is unlucky enough to get injured while you're travelling, especially if you're in a foreign country? As you can see, we found that out this week, and by the end of this video I will have shared everything that we discovered, which was quite a lot, and you'll know what to do should the same horrible situation ever happen to you. If you want more road trip tips and advice, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell so that you know whenever we put out a new video, which is twice a week on Wednesdays and Sundays. Injuries and hospitalisation is one of the biggest concerns for many people when they are travelling, especially when you're travelling in a foreign country. Have you ever thought about what happens if your dog is unlucky enough to need it? Because honestly, we really hadn't until we kind of had to. It was not fun, I'll be honest. I was obviously very upset and a little bit panicky and didn't really know what to do. So what I thought I'd do is share in this video what we learnt while we're all nice and calm. I really sincerely hope that you never ever have to use anything that I'm about to tell you, but on the off chance that you do, if you ever find yourself in that situation, then at least hopefully you will be a little bit more prepared than I was. You're not helping. You're not helping. So a few days ago, I was walking Mac, our Cocker Spaniel, in a woods in the middle of France. He was having a grand old time. We were playing Hunt the Ball, which is one of his favourite games. And he disappears off into this undergrowth of thorns and brambles and dense hedge, as Cocker Spaniels do all the time. Not a problem, not an issue. I walk on a little bit, because one way to get him out is to pretend like you've disappeared and he comes running afterwards, except this time he didn't. So I call him, and I could see where he was, because every time I called him, I could see the thicket moving, but I couldn't hear him. He wasn't making a sound. And then he yelps, like proper puppy hurt yelps, which is horrible, the most horrible sound. So I'm trying to figure out how to get into this dense thicket of horror, and I just couldn't get to him. I couldn't see exactly where he was to get him out. I'd like to say that at this point I wasn't panicking, but honestly that would be a lie. I was not sure how the heck I was going to get him out. I didn't know entirely what state he was in, but he was making the most horrendous noises. And then suddenly he just appears on the path, covered in blood. Like, covered. I don't know what state you're in if you're eating. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that. His face was pretty badly with skin and fur and blood, so much blood. I can tell you now what I did. At the time, honestly, I was just a big panicking mess. First step was obviously get him back and get it cleaned so I could see exactly how much damage it was. I didn't really know if it was his blood because he was still running around. Honestly, you're a crazy puppy. Yes, you are. So we got it back, we got it cleaned. We realised that there was an awfully huge gash, and in fact there were several gashes all around. I'm marking it on my face. There were several gashes all around his nose and his snout, which was unpleasant. It was deep enough that we knew we needed to get emergency treatment for him. Now, I have never done this before, so what I did was I googled what vet was in French. We're in France, which is veterinary. Yeah, there's a word that sounds a bit like veterinary. I googled that, I copied and pasted it from the French English translation thing, stuck it in Google Maps and did a whole search nearby. From there, I was able, I think it was about 4 within sort of a 20-30 minute radius of us, and I literally clicked on each one and went to their website until I saw an obvious emergency number. So I dial this number and I get an answer phone message in French, speaking very fast, as the French do, and I have absolutely no idea to this day what it said. Don't know. So I hung up, as you do when you have no idea what the heck's going on. And then I thought, I can't hang up, he's still bleeding, I need help. So I phoned back again. And then I left a very bad message, probably speaking far too fast in English, using the very limited French that I have got to explain that there was lots of blood and could you please call me back on this number, and leaving my phone number. So we cleaned him up, we put a padding on him to try and staunch the blood as much as we possibly could, which worked, in fairness. We were very lucky, that did work. And I still hadn't earned anything back, so I phoned that number again. This time a guy answered. And we had one of those really fun conversations between French and English where they talk to you in French and you have no idea what they said, so you go, uh-huh. I have no idea what he was saying. But again, I used my very bad French to try and explain what was going on. Anyway, long story short, We arranged for a meeting. We said we'd be there in about 25 minutes. We all got in the car and we drove to the vets. There was nobody there. Like, the place was dark and locked up. We were just like, have I got the right address? Have I got the right time? I didn't know. And what do? You can't go anywhere else. So we're sitting outside this vet that's completely deserted. There is nobody around because it's on the outskirts in the middle of an industrial estate. And how long do we sit here for? He's beginning to really whimper. And yeah, we just sat there. That was all we thought. We'd just give it a little while. And in about 10 minutes later, the vet turns up. So I don't know what would have happened if he'd been in real dire straits, because I sounded pretty panicky in my opinion. And I just kept saying lots of blood, lots of blood. So yeah, I don't know. I have never called a vet in England or the UK. I don't know how that rates to emergency services on a Sunday in the UK versus in France. I couldn't speculate on that. But I am very grateful that we were able to staunch the blood and he wasn't just bleeding out, because he was waiting maybe 45 minutes. Anyway, so we get into the vets and this guy is asking us questions in French and I'm doing my absolute best to answer. And then he goes, right, we'll see you in an hour. What? And they had to put him to sleep and to stitch up the side of his face and stuff, and I'm assuming the vet explained all this to us in French, but we didn't understand it. So literally we were sort of pushed out the vets whilst poor little Mac went to sleep. Well, we stayed with him while he put to sleep, and then we had to leave him, and it was one of the most horrible things I've ever done. So about an hour later we went back to the vets and picked him up. He sort of was a bit groggy and staggered around. And the whole thing cost us about €200, possibly one of the most expensive walks I've ever done. A couple of things that we learnt was that they do have emergency services in France. Yeah, I'm guessing that makes sense. They have lots of pets in France too. It was actually quite easy to get him treatment. Like I say, as long as his head wasn't hanging off, it was fairly straightforward to get him treatment. And it was quite expensive. I still need to find out and see if our vet insurers can cover it. I haven't got around to doing that yet. So yeah, that is a quick run through of, seriously, hi, no, not you, no, not you. So now you know exactly what to do in the middle of a pet emergency in a foreign country. Again, I sincerely hope you never, ever, ever need to use any of that information, but I do hope it helps if you ever are unlucky enough to find yourself in that position. What you might need, however, is a checklist to take for your dog on a road trip, so that you don't forget anything like we did one time when we forgot his food bowls. Yeah. So I've created a little checklist for you that you can just stick up in your van or your camper. So grab your checklist below. Have you ever had to deal with an emergency for your pet whilst you're travelling? Drop your story below. We'd love to hear it and we can all share and learn from your experiences. Make sure you check out these videos for more dog-friendly road trip tips and ideas. Hit that subscribe button and the bell to be notified every time that we put out a new video. If you like this video and got something out of it, hit the like button and I will see you in our next video. And give your pet a hug from me and Mac. Bye.